this happening on the campus and that happening on the campus and so on. The union and the Senate got together and they both censured these trustees and the board of trustees of SUNY for those activities. Furthermore, we've both lobbied for greater state funding for SUNY and so on. So we work together in all sorts of ways. Yes?
How do you form a union?
Well, it's not the simplest thing to do. I did hand out, or have a handout that was handed out, I think, that lists the major unions that represent faculty in this country. And I would think that after perhaps you talk to a few friends and you form some consensus as to which union to approach, the next thing you should do is to approach one of them and so on, give them a call, and ask to meet with an organizer. That should probably take place privately in somebody's home rather than in some public venue. And the organizer will talk about just how it's done. But there are union staff whose job it is to help organize unions and so on, and they're very good at that sort of thing. On the other hand, management, both on campuses and in corporations and so on, management is also very good in trying to block unionization. So it's sometimes a long, difficult struggle, sometimes not. For example, and most recently, our graduate student employees at SUNY, our teaching assistants, got together and they wanted to unionize. But it was a long, difficult struggle. They had to get the green light from various state boards and so on to indicate that they were more than just students, that they were also workers. They got a paycheck from SUNY and so on, which they did. And therefore, they were eligible for voting on a union. And they finally convinced most student workers that the union was the way to go. They won the collective bargaining election, and now they're a regular union, the Graduate Student Employees Union, that bargains with the state. And they got all kinds of benefits they didn't get in the past, such as paid health care. Yes?
As a historic point, what paths have workers and unions taken when their managers haven't negotiated in good faith?
Well, the National Labor Relations Act of 1935 states that managers and unions are supposed to bargain in good faith. Now, the definition of what good faith is, of course, is the rub here. That is, who's going to decide what's bargaining in good faith? Supposing management says, well, you can't have a health plan, period, and that's that, even though the workers want a health plan or want a health plan in which they don't pay 90% of the costs and so on. So that at that point, the two sides in negotiations may be at loggerheads. Now, the union can bring a complaint to the National Labor Relations Board, and the board could decide that management is not bargaining in good faith, or could decide the union is not bargaining in good faith, is not flexible, is not being reasonable, and so on. Therefore, in many ways, it's vital to have a decent labor relations board, and that's why unions are so concerned when the government is in the hands of the corporate elite, as I would say it is at this point, and therefore the members of the board are chosen for their favoritism to big business. And unfortunately, in my view, that's the case with most members of the board. So the board, when there's some decision to be made like this, is management bargaining in good faith, will often lean toward management and say, oh, yes, they are. And the Supreme Court, too, can be packed in the way those in power want it packed. And I suggest that's one reason that the Yeshiva decision was issued. That is, there were sufficient number of anti-union people on the Supreme Court who decided to limit faculty unions on private college campuses.